So is justice about fairness? Is justice really about fairness? Welcome to the Daily Devo. I am Vince Miller. We are in chapter 30 of 1 Samuel. David and his men have just enjoyed a massive victory, but as they return, they meet up with the 200 soldiers who were tired and left behind to guard the baggage on the return. A few worthless men who fought in the battle felt like the ones who were too tired didn't deserve the spoils. So let's listen to what David says to these guys in verses 23 through 25. But David said, "You shall not do so, my brothers, with what the Lord has given us. He has preserved us and given into our hand the band that came against us. Who would listen to you in this matter? For as his share is who goes down into the battle, so shall his share be who stays by the baggage. They shall share alike." And he made it a statute and a rule for Israel from that day forward to this day. Victory always feels sweet after a hard-fought battle, but sometimes the sweet taste turns into bitter selfishness, which it does here. David and his men had celebrated an enormous victory and defeat, reclaiming not only their loved ones, but every single possession. And as they returned to those 200 men who had stayed behind, tired, and guarded the baggage, an argument then breaks out. A small group of, remember, worthless men who had fought wanted to deny all the others their claim on the share of the spoils, claiming that they hadn't earned it. But David's response reveals a profound understanding of God's justice. David declared here, "You shall not do so with what?" Here's the operative phrase, "the Lord has given us." The Lord has given us. David is not going to let a few misguided men steal the joy of God's victory and justice. Instead, he shifts all their focus back to God, reminding them it was God's purpose, provision, and power that won the battle that day, and that God alone returned what was taken from them. David understood that final justice belongs to God, which meant the blessings of victory are not something that they could claim or selfishly divide based on human effort. Here's the principle. Justice in human hands always leaves selfish fingerprints. Justice in human hands will always leave selfish fingerprints. Every one of us at some point thinks justice is about fairness, as we define it, of course. We believe it should be awarded to the worthy and withheld from the unworthy. But God's justice operates differently than ours. His justice is governed by His will, His sacrifice, His redemption, and His grace. God's justice never plays by our selfish rules. And it's a good thing it doesn't, because we are all sinners deserving of eternal punishment in hell. But by God's grace, right, we are saved through faith in the justice extended in the sacrifice of Jesus, His Son, and our Lord. However, we should not interpret David's ruling as a mere declaration of human fairness. David wasn't concerned about fairness here. He was far more concerned about discipling and teaching his men about the nature and the character of God as a leader of God's people. God's people. He wanted to ensure that God's gracious and generous justice would be a lasting principle for the warriors and the people of Israel forever. You and I, we are often like David's men in this situation. His worthless men, we're quick to judge who deserves what based on our ideas of human effort and fairness. And our human grip on justice leaves selfish fingerprints on it every single time. But when we let God handle justice, our perspective changes, doesn't it? And if we're honest, that's the only justice that actually matters, because Well, God is the only one who can actually be righteous, be just, and be victorious every single time. So remember David's response the next time you're tempted to cling to what you believe you've earned, or the next time you decide someone else isn't worthy. The victories in your life aren't yours alone. They're gifts from God, and His spoils are meant to be shared and not stockpiled. So step back today and ask yourself, are you a reflection of God's justice? Are you? Do you extend the same grace that you have received? And then remember, justice in human hands always leaves selfish fingerprints. I love you guys. I pray this has blessed you today. If it has, please share it with someone else, and I'll see you right back here again tomorrow.